Hey there, crypto fans. Ready for another deep dive?
Absolutely.
This time we're going all in on the latest crypto roller coaster ride.
Oh, it's a wild one.
Buckle up as we break down the buzz from Bitcoin's wild price swings to, the whole Binance exec saga in Nigeria.
Right, and we can't forget about those publicly traded mining companies.
Yeah, they're really shaking things up.
Definitely.
Plus, we're diving deep into Tether's power play.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
All this and more coming up. So let's jump right in with,
Sounds good.
you know that whole Bitcoin ETF thing?
Mm.
U.S. spot Bitcoin ETFs had their first outflows in a week.
Really?
Yeah, totaling over $79 million.
Wow.
ARKB, that's the one run by ARK, and 21 shares took the biggest hit,
How much?
almost $135 million in losses. But get this,
Yeah.
BlackRock's IBT and Fidelity's FBPC are actually gaining.
Interesting.
What do you think that is?
Well, remember Bitcoin's price went crazy a little while back?
You mean when it shot past 70,000?
Exactly.
Yeah, that was wild.
There was a huge surge in open interest in Bitcoin futures.
Open interest.
Basically, it's the number of outstanding contracts betting on Bitcoin's future price.
So more people were like gambling on Bitcoin's next move.
Exactly, and that kind of explains why some investors are getting spooked now.
So they're pulling out of ETFs like ARKB because it feels risky.
Right.
But BlackRock and Fidelity, they're the big names everyone trusts.
Yeah, investors probably feel safer with them.
It's like choosing an experienced mountain climber to get you up Everest instead of,
Someone who just bought a map.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't forget about the upcoming U.S. election.
Oh, right. That's adding to the uncertainty,
There's so much speculation about how it'll impact crypto regulations.
which could make people hesitate even more.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, let's talk about Tether. It just hit a record-breaking $120 billion market cap.
Wow.
It's the biggest stablecoin out there, the one pegged to the US dollar.
Aiming to provide some stability amidst all this chaos.
Right. But is it really as stable as they say?
That's the big question, isn't it?
This massive market cap surge has everyone wondering if another rally's coming.
Like what happened back in August?
When a huge influx of Tether, basically USDT,
Yeah.
led to that big Bitcoin price jump.
Right.
So is Tether like some kind of crystal ball for the crypto market?
Not exactly.
Oh.
While historically more USDT flowing into exchanges means rising prices, it's not a guarantee.
Okay.
And don't forget, drops in USDT inflows often come before market corrections.
Like that dip below 60,000 in August.
Exactly. It can go both ways.
Talk about walking a tightrope.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to Bitcoin mining.
Okay.
So the hash rate just smashed through 700 EHs.
Really?
Yeah, an all-time high.
Wow.
Now, I know hash rate is like a measure of the network's processing power, but
Think of it like all the computers mining Bitcoin are working together to solve a giant puzzle.
okay.
Hash rate is basically how fast they're solving it.
So a higher hash rate means the network is more secure?
Right, because it takes even more power to try and mess with it.
Makes sense.
And this surge to 700 EHs, that's great for Bitcoin's security.
And overall health.
It definitely.
But what's causing this boost?
Well, mining has become super profitable, especially after the halving event.
Right when the block rewards got cut.
Exactly, and that's led to a big power shift.
You mean with the publicly traded companies?
Yeah, like MRA Holdings and Riot Platforms.
They're gaining ground while the little guys are struggling.
Right. As of September, they controlled almost 29% of the total hash rate.
So it's like the big fish are swallowing up the little ones.
That's a good way to put it.
We'll have to dive deeper into that later. But for now, let's switch gears
Right?
to a story with a more human element.
Okay.
Remember that Binance executive Tigran Gambaryan?
The one arrested in Nigeria?
Yeah, he was just released after 8 months.
8 months.
Yeah, he was in prison for tax evasion and money laundering charges.
Oh, wow.
And they even tried to blame Binance for some of their economic issues.
Really?
Yeah. It really shows you the tricky relationship between crypto and governments.
No kidding.
And it sounds like Gambaryan had a terrible time in prison.
Yeah, I read reports of malaria, double pneumonia, even a herniated disc.
It makes you think about the risks involved.
Definitely, this whole situation raises questions about the legal dangers for crypto businesses and individuals.
Especially in certain countries.
Right.
It reminds us that crypto might feel global and decentralized,
But it still operates within the rules of different countries.
many of which are still figuring out how to handle this new technology.
Exactly.
And Gambaryan's release, after all those petitions and support from U.S. officials, it shows the struggle for legitimacy that the crypto industry faces.
Yeah, and it highlights the need for clear regulations for it to truly thrive.
Absolutely.
This whole thing could really damage Binance's reputation.
And lead to more scrutiny from regulators.
Yeah, not just in Nigeria, but worldwide.
Makes you think twice.
It really underscores the need for strong compliance measures.
Absolutely. So with everything going on, what does this all mean for the average person trying to understand crypto?
You mean with the excitement of the tech and the uncertainty of the regulations?
Yeah, it's like a constant push and pull.
You're right, we're seeing incredible innovation and adoption.
Like Bitcoin's hash rate going through the roof.
Exactly, and Tether's growing influence.
Right, and institutions like BlackRock and Fidelity jumping into ETFs.
It all points toward crypto becoming more mainstream,
But then you have situations like Gambarians,
reminding us that the legal side is still shaky.
and the risks are real.
It's a tough balancing act, for sure.
Yeah, for individuals and companies.
It'll be interesting to see how it all plays out.
Okay, so let's circle back to Bitcoin for a sec.
Okay.
We talked about the recent price surge and all that record open interest in futures.
Right.
What do you think is fueling this optimism?
Is it just hype or something more?
Yeah.
Probably a bit of both. Speculation plays a role, especially with the U.S. election coming up.
And the possibility of crypto-friendly policies.
Exactly, but there are also some underlying trends that support Bitcoin's long-term value.
Really? Like what?
While more and more people are seeing Bitcoin as a legitimate store of value.
Like a digital gold.
Exactly. They're worried about inflation and their money losing value.
So they're turning to Bitcoin as a safe haven.
Exactly, a way to protect themselves against economic uncertainty.
And you think this trend will continue?
I do, especially in parts of the world facing instability or hyperinflation.
And we're also seeing more institutional investors getting involved,
Right, which adds legitimacy and liquidity to the market.
like Tesla and MicroStrategy adding Bitcoin to their balance sheets.
Yeah, and now with BlackRock and Fidelity launching ETFs, even more institutions are likely to follow.
So this inflow of institutional money, that's a game changer.
Absolutely. It brings a new level of sophistication and capital to the crypto space.
Wow.
Plus, don't forget the technological advancements happening behind the scenes.
Like the Lightning Network.
Yeah, making transactions faster and cheaper.
So Bitcoin has a lot going for it, even beyond the hype.
Definitely. But remember, crypto is still very volatile.
Right. It's not for the faint of heart.
There will be ups and downs along the way.
It's more like a roller coaster than a smooth ride.
Uh-huh. Yeah, but that's part of the excitement.
Exactly. But you got to be smart about it.
Absolutely. Do your research, stay informed, and manage your risks carefully.
Now let's bring Tether back into the conversation.
Okay.
Its recent market cap surge is impressive, but also a little worrisome.
Yeah, Tether's been surrounded by controversy for years.
Questions about their reserves and their potential impact on the markets.
You're right to be cautious. Their position as the top stablecoin gives them a lot of influence.
And responsibility.
Exactly. And there have been allegations about their reserves not always being fully backed.
Which could threaten its stability.
And potentially trigger a much larger market crash.
So it all boils down to trust.
Exactly. Transparency is key in the crypto world.
And Tether needs to be more open about its operations.
Otherwise, it risks becoming a systemic risk to the entire ecosystem.
That's a scary thought.
It is.
It seems like every aspect of crypto is this balancing act.
Between innovation, opportunity, and risk.
You said it.
It's a constantly evolving landscape.
We got to stay informed and adapt to the changes.
Absolutely.
Before we wrap up, let's go back to something from our research.
Okay.
The growing power of those publicly traded mining companies.
Right. They're like the new giants in the crypto world.
Yeah. What do you think the implications of that are?
Well, companies like MRA Holdings and Riot Platforms are becoming much more dominant.
Then the smaller independent miners.
Exactly. And this consolidation has both pros and cons.
Like what?
Well, on the plus side, they bring more transparency and accountability to mining.
Because they're under regulatory scrutiny.
Exactly. And they have to meet reporting requirements.
Which builds trust and legitimacy.
Right.
And they probably have more money and resources.
Leading to greater efficiency and innovation in their operations.
But what about the downsides?
Well, as these big companies take over more of the market,
It could lead to centralized mining power.
which goes against the whole idea of Bitcoin's decentralization.
So it's a trade-off between efficiency and decentralization.
Basically, a common theme in the crypto world.
Seems like it.
It's a discussion that'll continue as the industry matures.
Well, we've covered a lot today.
From Bitcoin ETFs to Tether to mining to regulations.
It's been quite a ride, just like the crypto market itself.
It has.
But before we go, I want to leave our listeners with something to think about.
Yeah.
With all these trends happening, is crypto truly going mainstream?
Or are we heading for another crazy ride?
Is it really revolutionizing finance?
Or is it just a bubble about to burst?
We've given you the information.
And the insights.
Now it's up to you to decide.
And remember, the world of crypto is constantly changing.
So stay curious, stay informed.
And most importantly, stay engaged.
This is just the beginning.
Of a very fascinating adventure.
No, don't just take our word for it.
Go back to the source material. Do your own research.
And challenge your assumptions.
The more informed you are.
The better equipped you'll be to navigate this exciting and ever-changing landscape.
Well said.
And on that note,
We've reached the end of our deep dive into the world of cryptocurrency.
it's been a pleasure exploring these topics with you.
And we look forward to diving into another fascinating subject with you soon.
Until then, stay curious and keep exploring.
And keep on riding that crypto roller coaster.
Haha, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can have some serious long-term effects for Binance.
Especially their reputation.
Right, and it could attract even more attention from regulators.
Not just in Nigeria.
No, in other countries too.
It really highlights the need for tight compliance in the industry.
Definitely.
So with all this going on, what's it mean for the average person trying to understand crypto?
Well,
It's all exciting with the technology and stuff.
Mm.
Then there's all this uncertainty around regulations.
yeah, it's a tough
It
one.
feels like a constant push and pull. It is. We are seeing incredible innovation and adoption happening, though.
True, like Bitcoin's hash rate exploding.
Exactly. And Tether's growing power.
And those big players like BlackRock and Fidelity diving headfirst into ETFs.
All signs point towards crypto becoming more mainstream.
But then you have stuff like what happened with Gambarian.
Right. Reminding us that the legal ground is still shaky.
And the risks are very real.
It's a balancing act for sure.
Definitely for individuals and companies alike.
It'll be interesting to see how it all unfolds.
Speaking of interest, let's go back to Bitcoin for a sec.
Okay.
We talked about that crazy price surge and the record open interest in futures.
Hmm.
What do you think is driving this renewed optimism in Bitcoin?
Is it just speculation or is there something more fundamental going on?
Yeah, like what's really behind it?
It's probably a mix of both.
Okay.
Speculation definitely plays a role, especially with the U.S. election coming up.
Right. And the chance of some crypto-friendly policies coming out of that.
Exactly, but there are also some underlying trends that support Bitcoin's long-term value.
Like what?
Well, for one, more and more people are starting to see Bitcoin as a legitimate store of value.
You mean like a digital gold?
Exactly. People are worried about inflation and their money losing its worth.
Makes sense.
So they're turning to Bitcoin as a kind of safe haven.
Ah, a way to protect themselves from economic uncertainty.
Precisely.
And you think that trend's going to continue?
I do, especially in places with political instability or, crazy high inflation.
Hyperinflation.
Yeah. And we're also seeing more institutional investors getting involved.
Adding more legitimacy to the whole thing.
Right. It also brings more liquidity to the market.
It's like when companies like Tesla and MicroStrategy started adding Bitcoin to their balance sheets.
Exactly. And now, with BlackRock and Fidelity launching their ETFs, it's likely that even more institutions will follow suit.
So this flood of institutional money coming in is a game changer.
Absolutely. It brings a whole new level of sophistication and capital to the crypto space. And let's not forget about all the technological advancements happening in the background.
Like the Lightning Network.
Yeah, making transactions faster and cheaper.
It sounds like Bitcoin has a lot of momentum, even beyond just the hype.
It does. But it's important to remember that crypto is still a very volatile asset class.
Oh yeah, for sure.
There will definitely be bumps in the road.
More like a roller coaster than a leisurely drive.
Exactly. But that's part of what makes it so exciting.
True. But you got to be smart about it.
Absolutely. Do your research, stay informed, and manage your risks carefully.
Okay, now let's circle back to Tether for a minute.
All right.
That recent market cap surge is impressive, but kind of scary too.
I know what you mean. Tether's been controversial for years.
Questions about their reserves and what they could do to the markets.
You're right to be cautious. Their position as the top stablecoin gives them huge influence.
And a lot of responsibility.
Exactly. And there have been some serious allegations about their reserves not always being fully backed.
Which could put their whole stability at risk.
And potentially even trigger a much larger market crash.
So it all comes down to trust.
It does. Transparency is absolutely essential in the crypto world.
Tether really needs to be more open about how they operate.
Otherwise, they risk becoming a systemic risk to the whole crypto ecosystem.
That's a scary thought.
It is.
It seems like everything in crypto is about finding that balance.
Between innovation opportunity and risk.
You nailed it.
It's a constantly evolving space.
We all need to stay informed and adapt as things change.
Absolutely.
Okay, before we wrap this up, let's go back to one more thing that really stood out in our research.
What's up?
The growing power of those publicly traded mining companies.
Right. They're becoming the giants of the crypto world.
What do you think are the implications of that
Well, companies like MRA Holdings and Riot Platforms are getting more and more dominant.
compared to those smaller independent miners?
Exactly. And this consolidation has both positive and negative sides.
Like what?
Well, on the positive side, these publicly traded companies bring more transparency and accountability to mining.
Because they're under scrutiny from regulators,
Exactly. They have to meet all these reporting requirements.
which builds trust and legitimacy.
Right.
Plus, they probably have a lot more money and resources to throw around.
Which leads to more efficient and innovative mining operations.
What about the downsides?
Well, as these big companies gain more control over the market,
Mm.
it could lead to a centralization of mining power.
Which goes against the whole decentralized nature of Bitcoin.
Exactly.
So it's a trade-off between efficiency and decentralization.
It is a very common dilemma in the crypto world.
Seems like it.
And it's a discussion that will continue as the industry develops and matures.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have, from Bitcoin ETFs to the power of Tether to the changing landscape of mining and the human cost of navigating these uncertain regulations,
It's been a wild ride.
just like the crypto market itself.
Before we wrap up, though, I want to leave our listeners with something to ponder.
Okay.
With all these trends happening, is crypto truly on the verge of becoming mainstream?
Or is it headed for another wild ride?
Is it a true revolution in finance?
Or just bubble waiting to pop?
We've shared the information and insights.
Now it's up to you to decide. And remember, the world of crypto never stands still.
So stay curious, stay informed.
And most importantly, stay engaged.
This is just the beginning.
Of a very exciting adventure.
Don't just take our word for it, though.
No, go back to the source material.
Do your own research. Challenge your assumptions.
The more informed you are.
The better equipped you'll be to navigate this exciting and ever-changing landscape.
Very well said.
And on that note, we've come to the end of our deep dive into the world of crypto.
It's been a pleasure exploring these topics with you.
We look forward to diving into another fascinating subject with you soon.
Until then, stay curious and keep exploring. Absolutely.
The more you know, the better you can navigate this crazy world.
It's true, this stuff is constantly changing.
Well, folks, it looks like we've reached the end of our crypto deep dive.
It has been a wild ride.
And we've only just scratched the surface.
There's always more to learn.
That's the beauty of it.
Exactly.
So until next time, stay curious.
And keep exploring.
Thanks for joining us.
It's been a pleasure.